Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 7 waivers. So I think we say every week, they haven't been great this year, but hey, there's still some players here I think that could be useful to your team. So we'll go over that in just a second. Before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram Fantasy Football Prophet. Go subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Go to youtube.com/fantasyfootballprophet. See some other videos we got going there. And then also go support us on Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyfootballprophet. All right, so it's time to jump right in to waiver wire, Jeff. Do you have a top guy this week?
Yeah, a little bit. It is a little bit of a weak waiver wire, but for me, just because of how hard running back is to come by, I have to say that Marlon Mack came back. He got 12 carries. He looked pretty good. I think that he's probably going to get the bulk of the carries. No one that I'm going to get overly excited about, but he is only owned in 26.2% of ESPN leagues. So I think he would be my number one because of the difficult position to find.
Yep, I'm going to agree with that. He's up there at the top of my list. I didn't know how it would work out with him injured and if, he wouldn't just get the job back. But Jordan Wilkins never did anything. Nyheim Hines has been fine, but he's not a guy who's going to, be a main back on any team. So it has to be Marlon Mack. And I like Marlon Mack. I liked him last year. I think had a lot of talent. So this could be a nice little pickup here. Especially there's just not a lot out there. So you got to go, if your team needs some running back help, I think you're getting a starting running back on a team here. Don't know how good of a team, but you're getting a starting running back, which is always helpful. All right. Then after Marlon Mack, I'm actually going to throw out another running back name here quick. I don't know. It's not like he did wonderful this week, but he's getting there. Rashad Penny, only for the fact that he had 9 carries and Mike Davis kind of took a back seat a little bit. Chris Carson wasn't great. You got to think at some point they're going to try to see what they have in this rookie. So I think you could take a chance on Rashad Penny if he's been dropped in your league, which he's been dropped in most leagues. He's down there now at 24.5% owned. And he ended up with 9 carries for 43 yards. So it's not a bad little start at 70 total yards. Going to the bye this week, so you might be able to get him, for pretty much nothing on the waivers. I think I would take a chance on Penny. It's always possible he's the next guy up.
Yeah, once again, running back is very difficult to come by. So I think you have to take a chance. And with that backfield, it's kind of rotating. I still think Chris Carson is the man there. But, they're going to want to try Penny out. Their first round pick. It just makes sense. So I think he is worth it, especially if you need kind of a high upside guy that maybe Chris Carson goes down and then Penny grabs that job.
Is there any other backs? Frank Gore, maybe?
Yeah, 2 other ones, and they're a little bit of a reach. But if you do need one, I would say Frank Gore. I think he's relatively safe, and I think if you are desperate to play someone, you can play him. And then, depending on how deep your bench is, Deontay Foreman, owned in only 8.5%. He's going to come back in the next few weeks. I don't know what condition he's in, but Blue or Miller aren't particularly blowing anyone's socks off, so he will have an opportunity to kind of cut into that timeshare.
Frank Gore actually kind of interesting to me. It's crazy to even we're talking about Frank Gore here when we're going into week 7. Never thought this would happen. But the last 3 weeks, he's gone from 11 carries to 12 carries to now 15 carries. And he gets to play Detroit, who hasn't been very good against the run this year for the most part. Drake isn't impressing anybody, and they're not, they want to use Frank Gore, it looks like now. He hasn't really lost a step anymore because I think he lost a step like 6 years ago and it's just been the same since. He looked pretty solid. I don't know. I think he's an interesting play. I might throw him in as like a flex this week if you're, need a play. I never thought I'd say that. I don't even know what's going on.
The other thing that I find interesting is he doesn't have a touchdown this year. And Drake, maybe I'm looking too far into it, but Gore does not fumble. I mean, that is just a great thing about him. He is sure as can be. And Drake almost cost him the game by fumbling on the 1 yard line. So maybe, just maybe, they try him out, in more red zone opportunities. Maybe it's more of a 50-50 split now. Maybe Gore even takes a few more. I think Detroit will find out a lot of those questions.
Yeah, as a Detroit fan, I hope they just can stuff the run, but I don't know. I don't feel like they can. So Frank Gore is interesting for me. That was actually pretty much all I had on my list for running backs was those guys there. Mack, Penny, Gore, Foreman. I didn't have anybody else. I know some people might throw Ito Smith out there because he got touchdowns in 3 straight weeks, but he doesn't really, he had 11 carries, but he only turned it into 22 yards. And you got to think if Freeman is actually back, he's going to get, Ito Smith isn't going to completely go away. He's just more going to be an annoyance to Freeman owners and Coleman owners. He's a decent little player, but I don't think he's worth an ad. And I see him on other waiver wire lists. So I don't know. I don't think that's a guy you need to go throw on your team unless we knew Freeman was out for a while, which I don't think is the case.
Yeah, if you needed a running back for 1 week only, then maybe you add him this week. But I think that there's, like Frank Gore, I think there's other people that are a little safer, especially if Freeman comes back, like Craig said. And really, that backfield is going to go back to normal once Devontae Freeman, finally gets healthy.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, just kind of the touchdowns are great for Ito Smith if you used him. Funny thing is I actually used him in 2 leagues this week. In 2 of our listener leagues. I was hurting. We were hurting for running backs, threw Ito Smith in there, and hey, worked out decently for a throw-in for the week. So I'll say wide receiver wise, top of my list is going to be probably Taylor Gabriel this week. He's keeps playing pretty well, keeps getting targets. I think he needs to be added.
Yep, he is on my list too. He is, proven his worth for sure.
The thing is, I don't know if I believe in it to an extent, but I still can't get fully behind it. And I still have trouble playing him in my lineup, even though he's had those 2 good weeks in a row. But yeah, with other people's bye weeks, he's going against New England this week. New England hasn't been great against the pass. I mean, they did just give up 40 to Kansas City, but you could throw him in there as a third. Okay, I'll say some other guys here quick just because they're right around our 40% cutoff. I mean, Chris Godwin is still under that 40%. He got another touchdown this week. He's got touchdowns in 4 out of 5 games he's played. He needs to be rostered.
Yeah, he's one that it was very good to see him perform the way he did today. Winston in there. Not to mention Deshaun Jackson was kind of cutting into his work a bit when he was doing so well. And it looks like it's right back to Godwin being kind of the, not only one of the, probably number 2, obviously, behind Mike Evans, but also he's caught a touchdown in all but 1 game. I mean, he is a very good red zone threat now.
The problem, though, too, is if he doesn't catch that touchdown, he hasn't had big games yet. But he's there. The touchdown, that makes a huge difference. 4 double-digit games now. And he needs to be rostered. He really does. So I think he should be more than 39%. What about Kiki QT? Still there at 39.3. Not as much this week, but it was just a weird game against Buffalo.
Yeah, they struggled. Buffalo's defense looked good. He still had 3 catches, 33 yards. They tried to even hand him the ball one time around the red zone, so he's involved. I still like him a lot, but he will have games like this. There's no doubt. Fuller is still ahead of him when he's healthy. Obviously Hopkins is the man there. But if they keep struggling to run the ball, I think they'll find unique ways to try to get him in space.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be involved, so he should be added as well. Then, not a lot of other great options here. What about you? What do you have?
The other 2 that I will mention, my first one is going to be Christian Kirk. I actually do think that he is a good ad. He is only owned in 13.9% of ESPN leagues. And if you look at his usage, there's a lot to like here. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. But, take away the first 2 games. He had 1 catch for 4 yards, 4 for 27. But then he actually gets quite a bit of usage. 7 for 90, 4 for 28, 3 for 85 and a touchdown. And today, or yesterday, whatever it was, 6 for 77. So I think that will continue. You have Denver and then San Fran and a bye, but he's developing a nice chemistry with Rosen. I think Christian Kirk is a relatively safe pick, and if he keeps developing as well, he might even have a little more upside.
Yeah, I mean, he's involved, so that's about all we can ask for right now with, if you're hurting at wide receiver and need a bye week fill-in. Then another guy's like, actually, Chester Rogers, he had 8 catches each of the weeks 4 and 5, didn't have as many this week, but he got 455 for a touchdown. He's another guy he's kind of involved in the offense, so it's a deeper league play, maybe more, and really a desperate play, but you could do worse than plugging him in.
Yeah, and really, if the injuries continue to mount for the Colts, especially if T.Y. doesn't come back, then he definitely will be playable in most leagues.
Now, I guess we probably should talk about Albert Wilson a little bit.
Yeah, he is the last guy on my list. He's only owned in 6% of leagues, and we kind of mentioned in the past episode, but he's very, very, he's just been producing. I don't know how else to say it. He's not necessarily safe by any means, but he has 4 touchdowns on the year. He's a big play guy, and obviously going against Chicago, 6 for 155, 2 touchdowns. Everyone's going to talk about it. How do you view Albert Wilson in the scheme of things? Like, would he be, where on this list does he fall?
He's actually, wide receiver wise, he's up there. He's almost more interesting than, okay, I like Taylor Gabriel he's more of a safe player. It seems like he's going to get you points, but I think Albert Wilson has a lot more potential here to become something more in a way from what I've seen. If he starts playing more and more, he hadn't been playing a lot. That was kind of the problem. But if games like this really show Miami they want to use him, he could really jump up quickly. It's not like anything is really happening with the rest of the receivers there. I mean, Kenny Stills is okay. I mean, who else do they have? Jakeem Grant. I mean, Devontae Parker doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Wilson's a very interesting play for me. I know some people are probably going to add like Tyrell Williams this week after what he did, but I want Albert Wilson over Tyrell Williams all day.
I agree. I think Wilson is a much more upside play, and I think you made the point is the way he played in that last game against Chicago just shows Miami that they can mix it up, and they don't have to kind of play this. He can be used in a way that, and he's not the same caliber, don't get me wrong, but same way that Tyreek Hill is used, same way Tariq Cohen is used. You can get him the ball in space and not have to throw down the field necessarily, which, let's be honest, Miami is not great at. So I think that he will be kind of used more and more. He will be game planned for. So I think he have some plays that are scripted for him.
And I guess I'll just mention 2 guys here real quick. It's more of deeper league plays, probably more PPR type plays, but like Cole Beasley, he's going to get some targets. But then even Willie Snead, who is just kind of there. He gets his last 3 games have gone 6 for 56, 5 for 55, 7 for 60. That's kind of what he is. But in PPR, that's, decent amount of catches is jumping into double digits if you're in PPR leagues. And actually, in a PPR league, he's been in double digits in every game but one. So he's not a, terribly interesting pick, but if you need a fill-in player, that's a pretty solid one. Even if you just need 10 points. Willie Snead's going to probably get you 10 points in PPR almost every time. And that's pretty much it. I can't think of any other wide receivers here.
Nope, that was all the wide receivers on my list as well.
There's just not, it's a lot of just fill-in guys and guys that might get you a decent week to keep you alive kind of a thing. Not a lot of great plays here. Well, I'm going to look at some quick, maybe some QB streamers for this week. I guess if Jameis is still out there in your league, go pick him up. 57% owned right now, but he should be owned. He's pretty good. I think he's pretty good. He's going to have some down weeks too, but for the most part, Jameis Winston, I think, is going to get better. We've been waiting for it for a long time. And I think maybe this will be the year. Be nice to see. But I think probably the best streaming option for the week it's going to probably be Baker Mayfield against Tampa, I think. Tampa has been pretty poor against quarterbacks.
Yeah, he didn't show up against the Chargers, really. 14.3. So not the worst thing by any means, but he does have the best matchup. And if you look at all the other QBs he technically breaks the threshold of 40%. But if you look at everyone else, it is very scary to try to figure out who is going to do well. You're really picking between like Bortles, Trubisky.
Flacco against New Orleans.
Maybe Flacco. Yeah. Or Eli.
No. Just keep Eli on the bench. Don't play Eli. Don't even care. He's playing Atlanta. This should have been an easy Eli Manning streaming week, but God, I can't trust that guy.
Yeah, it would be very hard to after last week.
But yeah, I could easily see a 20-some point Eli game this week. There are some decent matchups this week for some of these guys you would stream, but their names are Eli Manning, their names are Joe Flacco, Mitch Trubisky, Blake Bortles. It's hard to trust these options.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will say, Trubisky has a pretty decent matchup. Patriots have been giving up yardage, but once again, it's kind of like a second-year guy against New England. I don't know. New England always scares me a little bit. And Trubisky, I don't really trust yet, and a lot of people will because his last two games have been phenomenal, 55 and 33. How are you feeling about him, against New England?
I don't like it.
Is he in the stream?
I don't like it. It's not even – it should normally be good. You look at the player, how he's played. You look at New England, how they haven't really been great against quarterbacks, but you just have to have a feeling that Bill Belichick's going to find a way to just completely shut this guy down.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well.
I don't trust that whatsoever. Not even, I can't. But there's some decent ones. Baker, you could even go Joe Flacco. Really, you could. If you're really hurting, this is probably going to be Eli's best game of the year right here.
I keep thinking that. I was like, if I really had to choose between Flacco and Eli, I think I would just go for the Hail Mary and go, Eli can't look any worse than he did last week. Beckham is going to be, hounding him for the ball. Maybe I just throw him in there. But if you can get Baker Mayfield, Jameis, whoever, there's probably a better option.
I don't know. Maybe if Jameis would be a good option. Even though Cleveland's defense hasn't been that bad. He's going against him, but.
Yeah, they've been looking better and better. The last thing I'll say, I was going to say tight end. Really, I only see two in this, and one I have to shout out my guy, finally healthy again, O.J. Howard. He fell below the threshold, 36.5% of leagues. That guy is an automatic pickup for me. Unless you have one of the top 3, top 4 tight ends, I think this is probably going to be a guy that is playing for you. So definitely pick him up. He already looks pretty good. And then the other one would be Cincinnati's. CJ, I might slaughter it, but Uzomah. Only owned in 15.4. He keeps looking better and better. And Dalton keeps looking pretty good. So only 5.4 points, but the sad part is in the tight end game this year, that is usable.
It really is. So if you're hurt, you need a bye week tight end. I guess Ricky Seals-Jones is another one. Same kind of thing. He's not going to do great. He's not going to have a massive game, but he'll get you a couple points. That's what might be what you need. It's kind of ugly this year. And then how about, round it out with just a defense real quick. See if there's any streaming defenses. Chargers against the Titans could be a decent one there. Titans have just been poor. Really have. So I don't mind going against Marcus Mariota right now in my defense. What about, we talked about Trubisky a minute ago. Could this be a game where the Patriots pick him off 2-3 times and get some points, even though their defense hasn't been great, but could this be the one?
It can always be the one. I wouldn't put it past them. If anyone's going to do it, I think this would be a time to do it. I think that Belichick could throw some schemes at him that might rattle him, but he's been playing really good football. But I would be surprised if they got out of this clean and they didn't throw an interception or something.
Well, and then, the Bills now have surprised us with closer games, but they still haven't done anything offensively. So the Colts as a play against Buffalo could be one, just because Buffalo might stay in a game, but they're not going to do very well. And either if it's Josh Allen or if it's Nathan Peterman, whoever it is going to throw some picks. They just do. That's what they love. That's what they love to do. So the Colts could be a play.
Yeah, very good point. I was going to say that poor guy throwing the pick to lose the game last week.
Just that's what happens, I guess, with the Bills. That's not many terrific options, I would say. Broncos against Arizona, maybe. Probably that could be a decent one. Broncos, though, they have their ups and downs. They're not like they were the Broncos of old, but I still think Broncos against Arizona could be a decent streaming option for you this week. That's probably going to do it for me.
Yeah. What do you think about the Cardinals? I keep looking at this team and I can't really figure out their defense, but they've had two big outings.
Yeah, that's not a bad one either. Broncos haven't been – that game alone just should be low scoring, but –
you would think. So I think Cardinals might be an okay streaming.
Yeah, there are some options. If you're desperate this week, there is some options you could have here.
Yeah. And remember, that is teams that are 40% or less owned in ESPN leagues. So obviously not everyone keeps multiple defenses. So there might be a few that are above that as well.
I think that's going to do it for waivers. Maybe one of these weeks we'll have that sure thing number one guy. We haven't seen it yet. So if you've been like holding on to that number one waiver, I think you just hold on to it again because there's nobody this week for me to pick up, I would say. So keep waiting. Maybe somebody will show up. There'll be some injuries at some point here. Get a new running back will pop in. This is the number one guy. So, all right, that'll do it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.